Ladies and gentlemen, today I want to explore the paradox of life, how it can be both wild and loving, a mixture of chaos and beauty. The title of this speech, A Little Wild, A Lot of Love, invites us to reflect on how we navigate the unpredictability of life while cultivating meaningful connections. And while this might sound like an emotional plea, it is rooted in the timeless wisdom of Stoic philosophy. Life in its essence is wild. It is unpredictable, sometimes chaotic, and often beyond our control. To recognize and accept this truth is to live with wisdom. The Stoics, ancient philosophers of resilience, recognized this wildness and advocated for embracing it, not resisting it. For the Stoics, nature was a key element of understanding the universe and the self. They did not see chaos as something to fear, but as an intrinsic part of the world that we must accept as we journey through life. The external world operates on its own rules. Nature, with its storms, changes, and inconsistencies, mirrors our own human experience. It can be easy to get frustrated when things do not go according to plan, or when life seems to throw one challenge after another our way. But the Stoic perspective is different. Rather than fighting against the wild forces of the world, they believed in responding with calmness, understanding, and reason. One of the key Stoic figures, Epictetus, offered a profound reminder: we cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them. This teaching is a cornerstone of Stoicism, the idea that, while we cannot always control what happens around us, we always have control over how we choose to react. The wildness of life, the uncontrollable nature of the world, becomes less of a threat when we realize that we are not victims of our circumstances, but rather the masters of our own responses. Nature itself is a blend of order and disorder, of calm and chaos. The Stoics saw themselves as part of this natural world. They viewed life's wildness as not something to fear or avoid, but something to accept and engage with. Imagine a river, rushing and unpredictable, carving its way through the land. The river does not resist its nature, it flows. Similarly, we are urged to flow with life's unpredictability. We must learn to navigate the turbulent waters without being overwhelmed by them. There is, of course, a distinction to be made between chaos and chaos that we create ourselves. While the external world can be chaotic, often due to factors completely beyond our control, we also create our own chaos by acting out of emotion, by indulging in unwise passions, or by resisting the natural course of events. Stoic philosophy calls us to avoid this kind of internal chaos, to live according to reason and virtue, and to respond to external wildness with serenity and clear thinking. When we meet life's storms with composure, when we accept the unpredictable nature of existence, we transform the wild into an opportunity for growth rather than a burden to bear. The Stoics did not advocate for passivity in the face of life's challenges, but for active acceptance. It is about engaging with the world, not fighting it. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations urged himself to see each moment as an opportunity to practice virtue, no matter how wild the circumstances. He recognized that the universe is vast and its events are far beyond human control. However, our response to those events, our ability to maintain our integrity, calm, and composure, remains within our power. To live in harmony with the wildness of life means accepting that things will not always go according to plan. Sometimes, people will act in ways that disappoint us. Sometimes, situations will unfold in ways that test our patience or challenge our sense of control. But these moments are not punishments. They are natural occurrences in the grand, unpredictable flow of life. And like the Stoics, we must not only accept them, but also learn from them. When we embrace the wildness of life, we free ourselves from the constant struggle to control things that are beyond our grasp. Instead, we focus on what is within our control, our thoughts, our decisions, our actions, and our ability to love and care for others. In this way, we find peace in the midst of chaos, strength in the face of uncertainty, and resilience when we face hardship. We are not defined by the wildness around us, but by how we choose to respond to it. So, let us learn from the Stoics and embrace life's inherent unpredictability. Let us flow with its challenges rather than resisting them. Let us cultivate the strength to maintain our peace, to act with reason, and to grow through every storm we encounter. In doing so, we transform the wildness of life into a tool for deeper wisdom and personal growth. One of the central tenets of Stoic philosophy is the distinction between what is within our control and what is not. This principle is fundamental to understanding how to live a virtuous life and how to approach the challenges that inevitably arise in life. The Stoics teach that we must focus our energy and attention on things that we can influence, and release our attachment to things that are beyond our reach. This idea can be found in the writings of Epictetus, who stated, "Some things are up to us, and some things are not." The distinction between what we can control and what we cannot is a powerful one. It allows us to direct our energy and focus toward actions that are meaningful, while also relieving ourselves of the stress and frustration that come from trying to control the uncontrollable. For example, we cannot control the weather, the behavior of others, or the outcomes of events that are outside our influence. No matter how hard we try, these things will happen regardless of our wishes. However, we can control how we respond to these external forces. We can control our attitude, our reactions, and the choices we make in the face of uncertainty or adversity. This Stoic perspective shifts the focus from an external locus of control to an internal one. Rather than being at the mercy of external circumstances, the Stoic learns to cultivate a sense of inner peace and resilience. When we recognize that we have control over our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, we free ourselves from the tyranny of trying to manipulate the world around us. We become empowered to make the best possible choices in any situation, regardless of the challenges we may face. For instance, in relationships, we cannot control the actions or opinions of others. We cannot force someone to love us or to behave in a way that aligns with our desires. However, we can choose how we engage with others. We can act with kindness, patience, and understanding, regardless of how others behave. This doesn't mean we accept mistreatment or passively allow ourselves to be taken advantage of. But it does mean that we approach relationships with a sense of inner clarity, guided by reason rather than by emotional impulses. We understand that we cannot control the way others treat us, but we can control our own responses, choosing to act with dignity and respect. Similarly, when it comes to the difficulties of life, we cannot always control the circumstances we find ourselves in. We may experience setbacks, hardships, or disappointments that are beyond our ability to influence. But Stoic wisdom teaches us that these challenges are not inherently negative. They are an inevitable part of the human experience and offer us an opportunity for growth. By accepting what is beyond our control, we free ourselves from unnecessary suffering and frustration. We come to see that our true power lies in how we choose to respond to adversity. For example, consider a situation where you are passed over for a promotion at work. You may feel disappointed, frustrated, or even angry. However, instead of focusing on what you cannot control, the decision made by your employer, you can choose to focus on what you can control, your response. You can choose to learn from the experience, to reflect on what you can improve in your work, or to seek feedback in order to grow. In doing so, you transform a seemingly negative event into an opportunity for personal development. Furthermore, the Stoic understanding of control extends to our internal life. We may not be able to prevent negative emotions from arising, but we can control how we respond to them. When we feel anger, anxiety, or frustration, we have the power to acknowledge these emotions without being controlled by them. We can choose to approach these feelings with a sense of awareness and self-discipline, deciding how we will react in any given moment. This shift in focus, from trying to control the uncontrollable to managing our own responses, offers a profound sense of peace and freedom. We stop wasting energy on things that are beyond our influence and instead invest in cultivating wisdom, patience, and understanding. The Stoics teach us that peace is not found in the absence of external chaos, but in the mastery of our inner world. When we accept that some things are beyond our control and focus only on what we can change, we free ourselves from the burden of expectation and the frustration of resistance. In this way, Stoicism provides a framework for living a life of tranquility and strength. By focusing on our own actions, thoughts, and attitudes, we empower ourselves to navigate the challenges of life with resilience and grace. We come to realize that true freedom does not lie in controlling the external world, but in mastering our internal world. Love, within the context of Stoic philosophy, is often misunderstood as merely an emotional reaction or attachment. However, the Stoics view love not as a fleeting feeling or something dependent on external circumstances, but as a deliberate act rooted in virtue, wisdom, and rational thought. Unlike the modern conception of love, which is frequently associated with romanticism, passion, and attachment, the Stoic approach to love is grounded in reason and moral virtue. It is an active, intentional decision to care for others, to act with kindness, and to treat others with respect and compassion, regardless of the circumstances. For the Stoics, love is intertwined with the concept of philia, the love of friendship and camaraderie that is built on shared values and mutual respect. It is not a passive or reactionary feeling, but an active force that propels us to treat others with fairness, generosity, and understanding. In the Stoic view, love is a reflection of our own character, of our commitment to living according to virtue and reason. It is a conscious effort to choose the good for others, to act in ways that promote their well-being, and to care for them not because of what they can give us, but because of the inherent worth they possess as human beings. The Stoic understanding of love challenges the modern tendency to associate love with dependency or the need for reciprocation. Today, people often view love as something conditional, where we love others because they fulfill a specific need or expectation in our lives. Stoicism, however, teaches that love should be unconditional. The Stoic loves others not because of what they can offer in return, but because it is in accordance with reason and virtue to do so. This unconditional love is not an attachment or dependency on others, but an expression of one's own commitment to moral excellence and the common good. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers and emperors, frequently emphasized the importance of love for others in his Meditations. He reminds himself that everyone is part of the same cosmic system, that all human beings share a common nature, and that to act with kindness and love toward others is to act in accordance with the universe's natural order. He writes, "What is not good for the bee, hive cannot be good for the bee." In other words, acting in ways that promote the well-being of others is not just a moral imperative, it is also a reflection of the interconnectedness of all people. When we love others, we are not merely acting for their benefit, but also for our own, as we are all part of the same greater whole. This understanding of love as an expression of virtue, rather than as a reaction to external circumstances, allows us to navigate relationships with a sense of inner peace and wisdom. When we love without attachment, we are not at the mercy of the changing moods or behaviors of others. We love not because of what others give us, but because it is the right thing to do. This removes the possibility of disappointment or frustration when love is not reciprocated in the way we might expect. True Stoic love is free from the need for validation or reciprocity. It is given freely and generously, guided by reason and virtue. Furthermore, love in Stoic philosophy is not restricted to those closest to us, or to those with whom we have a personal bond. The Stoic practice of cosmopolitanism encourages us to love and care for all human beings, recognizing that every person shares the same essential human nature. Just as we are called to love our family, friends, and companions, we are also called to extend that love to strangers, to those we may never meet, and to those who may not be able to offer anything in return. The Stoics saw all people as part of the same global community, and love for them was an essential way of promoting harmony and virtue across that community. In this sense, Stoic love transcends the personal and the immediate. It is a reflection of our understanding of the interconnectedness of humanity and the natural world. To love is to act in accordance with the principles of reason, to recognize the inherent dignity and worth of others, and to act in ways that contribute to the flourishing of both ourselves and those around us. This type of love, grounded in wisdom and virtue, is one that strengthens us in times of adversity. When we act with love, even in difficult circumstances, we elevate ourselves above petty grievances and self-interest. Love becomes a means of living in alignment with our highest ideals and with the natural order of the universe. By practicing Stoic love, we not only benefit others but also cultivate our own moral excellence, moving ever closer to the Stoic ideal of living a life of wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. Thus, love in Stoicism is not an ephemeral, emotional experience, but a deliberate, virtuous practice that extends beyond the bounds of personal desire, encompassing all humanity and contributing to the greater good. It is through this kind of love that we become better individuals, more harmonious members of society, and more aligned with the natural world. The Stoic philosophy emphasizes the importance of balance and moderation in all aspects of life, including the way we interact with our passions, desires, and actions. While Stoicism is often associated with self-control and rationality, it does not advocate for a life devoid of passion or emotion. Instead, it teaches us how to channel these powerful forces in a way that does not overwhelm or destroy our inner peace. The Stoics recognize that life is full of contrasts, joy and sorrow, pleasure and pain, success and failure, and they understood that true wisdom lies not in avoiding these contrasts, but in finding balance within them. Moderation in Stoic thought is a way of ensuring that we do not become slaves to our emotions or desires. It is about exercising control over our impulses, cultivating a sense of self-discipline, and recognizing the importance of temperance in all things. The Stoic practice of moderation allows us to experience life fully, embracing its joys and challenges, without being controlled or consumed by them. By moderating our desires and actions, we free ourselves from the tyranny of excess, and we maintain the inner peace and tranquility that Stoicism encourages. At the core of Stoic moderation is the idea that we should not indulge in excess or extremes. Whether it is in our pursuit of pleasure, our desire for material possessions, or our reactions to external events, the Stoics teach that we should avoid the extremes of indulgence and deprivation. For example, when it comes to food, drink, or other physical pleasures, the Stoic does not reject them outright, but practices moderation. They enjoy what is necessary and fulfilling without falling into excess or gluttony. Likewise, the Stoic does not deprive themselves of simple pleasures, but they recognize that true happiness does not come from the constant pursuit of indulgence. The Stoics also teach that moderation extends to our emotional life. While it is natural to feel joy, sadness, anger, or excitement, the Stoics argue that these emotions should not govern our actions. Instead, they should be acknowledged and managed with reason. It is not about suppressing emotions, but about understanding them and choosing how to respond to them. For example, when faced with a setback, a Stoic may feel frustration, but they do not allow that frustration to dictate their behavior or lead to rash decisions. Instead, they use their reason to assess the situation and decide how best to move forward. In this way, moderation helps to prevent emotions from controlling us, allowing us to maintain our composure and act with wisdom. Moderation also plays a crucial role in our relationships with others. In human interaction, it is easy to become overwhelmed by the desire for approval, affection, or power. We may seek validation from others or become overly dependent on their opinions of us. The Stoic teaches that love and friendship should be rooted in virtue, not in the need for external validation. Love, for the Stoic, is not an attachment to another person or an expectation that they will fulfill our emotional needs. Instead, love is a free and rational choice to care for others based on their inherent worth as human beings. In this way, Stoic love is moderate. It is not possessive or demanding, but generous and self-sufficient. Furthermore, the Stoic approach to moderation helps us deal with external events in a way that maintains our inner peace. Life is full of ups and downs, and it is easy to become caught up in the emotional highs and lows that come with success and failure. Stoicism teaches us to avoid extremes in our reactions to these events. For example, when we experience success, the Stoic does not become arrogant or overly proud, as this would disrupt their sense of humility and balance. Similarly, when we face failure or adversity, the Stoic does not succumb to despair or self-pity. Instead, they maintain their sense of equanimity, understanding that both success and failure are temporary and beyond our full control. In the context of wildness and unpredictability in life, the Stoic approach of moderation provides a grounding force. While life may be unpredictable and sometimes chaotic, we can choose how to respond to it in a balanced way. We may not be able to control the storms that come our way, but we can control how we weather them. By cultivating moderation in our responses to life's challenges, we avoid overreaction or extremes. We maintain clarity, focus, and resilience regardless of the external circumstances. In essence, moderation allows us to navigate the complexities of life without being swept away by them. It encourages us to experience life fully, but in a way that is grounded in wisdom and virtue. It teaches us to avoid the extremes of excess and deprivation, indulgence and suppression, joy and sorrow, and to find the balance that leads to a peaceful and flourishing life. By practicing moderation, we not only protect our inner tranquility, but also cultivate the strength to face whatever challenges come our way with grace and wisdom. Through balance, we align ourselves with the Stoic ideal of living in accordance with nature, grounded in reason and unshaken by the turbulent forces of life, suffering is an inescapable part of the human experience. It comes in many forms: physical pain, emotional loss, disappointment, or the inevitable setbacks that life brings. In Stoic philosophy, suffering is neither an anomaly nor something to be avoided at all costs. Rather, it is an intrinsic part of the world and a necessary aspect of personal growth. The Stoics understood that suffering can be a teacher, one that offers valuable lessons about resilience, wisdom, and the nature of human existence. They viewed suffering not as something to be feared or resented, but as an opportunity to strengthen the character and refine the soul. One of the fundamental teachings of Stoicism is that suffering, like all external events, is beyond our control. We cannot choose when pain will enter our lives or how it will manifest, and we certainly cannot control the suffering of others. However, what we can control is how we respond to suffering. The Stoic approach to hardship is to face it with dignity, courage, and a sense of purpose. They encourage us to embrace suffering as a means to cultivate virtue, rather than to allow it to diminish us or push us into despair. The Stoics believed that suffering could be a source of profound growth. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, famously said, "Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body." In other words, hardship is a crucible in which our character is tested and strengthened. Just as physical muscles grow stronger through resistance, our inner resilience develops through the challenges and suffering we face. When we encounter suffering, we are given an opportunity to practice virtues such as patience, perseverance, and fortitude. These virtues are not cultivated in times of comfort, but in moments of difficulty when we are pushed to our limits and must rely on our inner resources to navigate the storm. This perspective on suffering shifts the focus from viewing it as a mere burden to understanding it as an opportunity for self-improvement. When we face hardship, we are faced with a choice: to succumb to despair and allow the suffering to define us, or to meet it with calmness and a sense of purpose, using it as a stepping stone toward greater wisdom. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations reminds himself that the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. This means that the obstacles we encounter are not hindrances to our progress, but integral to our journey. By embracing suffering as part of the process, we transform adversity into a tool for growth and a source of strength. Furthermore, the Stoics teach that suffering is a universal experience. All human beings, regardless of their social status, wealth, or accomplishments, will inevitably face pain and loss. This shared reality is a reminder that we are all connected in our humanity. By acknowledging the inevitability of suffering, we cultivate empathy and compassion for others who are going through their own trials. Instead of seeing suffering as something to be avoided at all costs, the Stoics suggest that we view it as a common bond that unites us with others. In this way, suffering not only offers us personal growth, but also fosters a sense of solidarity with the human community. The Stoic response to suffering also involves understanding that much of what we perceive as suffering is a result of our judgments about events rather than the events themselves. According to the Stoics, our interpretation of events shapes our experience of them. What we often see as suffering may, in fact, be an opportunity for growth, a challenge to overcome, or a lesson to be learned. For example, a setback in our career may initially seem like a personal failure, but from a Stoic perspective, it can be seen as a chance to build resilience, learn from our mistakes, and find a new path forward. By reframing our understanding of suffering, we can diminish its negative impact on our lives and open ourselves to the wisdom it offers. In addition, the Stoics remind us that suffering, like all things, is temporary. It may feel overwhelming in the moment, but time has a way of easing the intensity of pain. The Stoic practice of reflection encourages us to keep this in mind, helping us to distance ourselves from the immediacy of our suffering and gain perspective. By accepting that all things are fleeting, we are better able to weather the storms of life without being consumed by them. The suffering we experience today will eventually pass, just as the joy and happiness of the present moment will eventually fade. This transient nature of all things helps us to keep our emotional equilibrium intact, knowing that both the highs and lows of life are part of a greater, ever-changing cycle. In conclusion, Stoic philosophy offers a radically different approach to suffering than the one typically embraced by modern society. Instead of seeing suffering as something to be feared, avoided, or eliminated, the Stoics encourage us to embrace it as an inevitable and transformative part of life. Through suffering, we can build resilience, strengthen our character, and deepen our understanding of the world. By practicing acceptance and reframing our perspective, we can transform hardship into a source of wisdom and growth. Ultimately, the Stoic approach to suffering is one of empowerment, showing us that we have the ability to control our response to pain, to find meaning in adversity, and to emerge stronger and wiser from life's challenges. The Stoic philosophy places great emphasis on the idea of self-discipline and the importance of living a life guided by reason rather than by fleeting emotions or external influences. Self-discipline in this context is not about repressing our desires or emotions, but rather about recognizing them, understanding their source, and making conscious decisions on how to respond. The Stoics believed that through self-discipline, we can attain mastery over our actions, our thoughts, and our feelings, leading to a life of true freedom, purpose, and tranquility. One of the core principles of Stoicism is the belief that we must cultivate virtue, which involves the development of wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. Self-discipline is closely tied to these virtues as it enables us to act in alignment with our highest values, even when faced with temptation or adversity. Rather than being driven by immediate gratification or impulsive desires, the Stoic practices temperance, seeking moderation in all things. This means that they understand the importance of resisting excess and staying focused on their goals, whether those goals involve personal development, relationships, or contributing to the greater good of society. The Stoic idea of self-discipline extends beyond simple abstention from indulgence. It also involves the ability to make choices that align with reason and long-term well-being, even when those choices are difficult or uncomfortable in the moment. For instance, when faced with a challenging situation, a Stoic does not act out of anger or frustration, but instead pauses to reflect on the most rational and virtuous course of action. This level of discipline is not about perfection, but about striving to act in ways that are consistent with one's values, regardless of the external pressures or internal impulses that may arise. In practice, self-discipline means cultivating the ability to resist temptations that would lead us away from our better judgment. Whether it's resisting the lure of instant gratification, such as overeating or indulging in material pleasures, or avoiding the destructive impulse to lash out in anger or bitterness, self-discipline empowers us to choose the path of virtue over the path of indulgence. Epictetus, one of the most prominent Stoic philosophers, stressed the importance of controlling our reactions to external events. He believed that our true power lies not in changing the world to fit our desires, but in changing our own attitudes and responses to the world around us. This form of self-discipline allows us to preserve our inner peace, no matter what challenges we face. The practice of self-discipline also extends to our relationships and interactions with others. The Stoics believed that we should act justly and with integrity, even when it is difficult. In moments of conflict or disagreement, a Stoic strives to respond with patience and reason rather than allowing anger or resentment to dictate their behavior. They understand that their actions reflect their character, and therefore they seek to embody virtues such as fairness, humility, and kindness, even in the face of provocation. This level of self-control ensures that we do not act impulsively or out of self-interest, but instead strive to contribute to the well-being of others and maintain harmonious relationships based on mutual respect. Moreover, self-discipline helps us maintain focus on our long-term goals and aspirations, rather than being distracted by short-term pleasures or external distractions. The Stoic encourages a life of purpose, where actions are directed by reason and aligned with the principles of virtue. This requires a constant commitment to self-reflection and self-awareness, as the Stoic continually examines their thoughts, behaviors, and decisions to ensure they are in harmony with their values. The disciplined pursuit of virtue, in turn, leads to a sense of fulfillment that is not dependent on external circumstances, but arises from living in accordance with one's own highest principles. Self-discipline is also critical in the face of adversity. Life inevitably brings challenges, from personal setbacks to broader societal issues. In such moments, the Stoic embraces adversity as an opportunity for growth, understanding that hardship is not something to be avoided, but something to be navigated with wisdom and courage. Self-discipline enables us to face difficulties with resilience, accepting the things we cannot change and focusing our energy on those areas where we can make a positive difference. It allows us to maintain our composure and continue pursuing our values even when life does not unfold as we would like. In the broader sense, self-discipline in Stoic philosophy is about becoming the master of our own lives, making deliberate choices that align with our rational nature and our highest purpose. It is not about rigidly adhering to a set of rules or imposing unnecessary restrictions on ourselves, but about developing the ability to act in ways that promote long-term well-being and peace of mind. By cultivating self-discipline, we learn to detach from the transient, external distractions of life and focus instead on what truly matters, living with virtue, wisdom, and a sense of inner harmony. Ultimately, the practice of self-discipline leads to true freedom. It is a freedom not from external constraints, but from the internal forces that seek to disrupt our tranquility and lead us astray. When we are disciplined, we no longer react impulsively to life's challenges, but instead respond with thoughtfulness and intentionality. This sense of freedom enables us to live fully in the present, secure in the knowledge that our actions are aligned with our deepest values and that we have the strength to face whatever life may bring with grace and composure. Through self-discipline, we cultivate the ability to be at peace with ourselves, regardless of the external circumstances, and to live a life of purpose, meaning, and virtue. In conclusion, the Stoic philosophy offers us a timeless and powerful framework for living a life of meaning, wisdom, and inner peace. By embracing the idea of being a little wild, a lot of love, we come to understand that life is a balance between embracing the unpredictable and cultivating deep, rational love, and compassion for others. Stoicism teaches us that through resilience, moderation, and acceptance of suffering, we can develop the inner strength to face life's challenges with grace and wisdom. The practice of self-discipline empowers us to act in accordance with our highest values, ensuring that our responses to external circumstances are guided by reason, virtue, and purpose. In essence, Stoicism encourages us to live with a sense of purpose, grounded in the realization that we cannot control everything that happens to us, but we can control how we respond. By embracing love that is rooted in virtue, practicing moderation in our desires, and finding strength in suffering, we align ourselves with nature's rational order, leading to a more fulfilling and peaceful existence. Stoicism shows us that true freedom is not found in the external world, but in our ability to master ourselves, stay true to our values, and remain unshaken by life's inevitable ups and downs. As we continue on our journey, let us strive to cultivate these Stoic principles, facing each moment with a clear mind, an open heart, and the unwavering commitment to live a life of wisdom, love, and virtue. This, after all, is the path to true happiness and a life well lived.